Hey, what's up, everybody? Liam and I here again. We're here to share some powerful insights that we've had along our journey in regards to the pain body. It's been spoke of as many different things. The primal karma or adi karma or the original sin, the core wound, the spell, the deepest spell. It could be spoke of in so many ways, and it relates directly to the shadow as well, and aspects of different ways of going about what this wound and pain and trauma that we carry with us in this life really is and where it came from. And we're going to kind of go deep. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Liam first to see what his thoughts are with this and his experience with it, with all of his experience through his journey. So yeah, Liam, what would you say to, yeah, what is the pain body, my friend?
Oh, I mean, that's such a huge, beautiful question. And the first thing that we have to understand, the pain body is a lack of awareness, a lack of consciousness of reality. It's forgetting. It's a place where we are in delusion or in distortion. And it's really interesting when you think about the kind of psychological development, right? I mean, you see a baby and you can see like, oh wow, like they're still kind of tuned in to the all in some way. Maybe that's where they're living most of the time, right? And then as we develop psychologically, now we start to build this sense of self, this identity, this ego that is more separate, right? So a lot of people then make the mistake to say, well, oh yeah, well, we just got to be like babies or but like little children or everything. Well, yes, but really more no. I mean, we're not here to be babies. We're here to flower into our potential as adults, right? Like, where's your inner adult? Not just like, where's your inner child? Where's your inner adult? It's like, how can you bring best version of yourself in a super conscious way that is connected to reality? So we could say, I mean, and I'm not really answering your question about like, well, what is it or whatever, but it is in that general sense of kind of forgetting. And there's one school of thought that I really like also as far as this goes, and that is that, okay, we're eternal beings, and we decided to come into this finite realm. And so why would we do that? Why would we, give up this bliss and this connection to do this? I find this explanation very compelling. And that is that, okay, so when we are in our more eternal being consciousness, everything is great, man. But that doesn't mean that an evolution and potential is not still happening. We've got still more potential, even as spiritual beings. And so this realm is where we bring in those aspects of ourselves. We could call them our wounds or whatever. We could call them our incompletion. We could call them, our unrealized potential. We bring those aspects of ourselves into this realm, which is a much higher density, in order to learn about cause and effect and the use of consciousness. So now we've got the situation where all these eternal beings are bringing in, what they want to work on in order to purify. And so, of course, we're going to bump into each other. We're going to cause a lot of trouble, because we're all doing that. And there's also this great potential now, as you and I have discovered with each other and with the folks that we work with, that, yeah, when we do this work together, when we come out of the consciousness of the pain body of original sin and all these things, and recognize the realities of what our life really is in this moment, we understand that this pain body, this original sin or whatever, is therefore for us to unpack and undistort and to fuel our lives in a positive way. I don't know. What do you think about any of that?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love there's so many different schools of thought in regards to like, why would the infinite, create, right? Why would it create finite experiences? And I mean, it really does kind of bring up this thing for me with, basically the experience of oneness, when we experience oneness, there's a knowing that you're interconnected, you're one with all things, right? And you can't explain it to people, right? You can't explain that to people. You just know it. And there's a knowing beyond the mind, knowing it's in every cell of your body. If you're conscious of your body at that time, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're beyond the body, so to speak. But in that knowing, there's this interwoven connection between pain and love, which is an interesting thing, and for me, there was this experience of realization for myself that in some way, potentially, from a perfection, the only thing that it wants to create is little fragments of imperfection. And the thing about that is that every step of what I'm saying is paradoxical. So even the imperfections are perfect. They're perfect imperfections. And what that is implying is, like, if we were to, in a theoretical way, create a model of just the way to think about this, because the finite mind can't think infinitely, right? From a fragmented point of view, there's all these multiplicities. Like, from the sun came infinite number of sun rays, so to speak. And as they initially split from that core of that central sun, that central light, that first moment of fragmentation or splitting, there was this little first separation. And this first separation was simply a perception of separation. It was a turning away from and moving out away from, so to speak. And we could imagine, creation, as Liam said, as it extends itself out, it becomes more and more and more and more dense. And so the mind can't fully comprehend this because it's doing this infinite times, an infinite universe, and each particle is the infinity. So it's like the mind can't fully comprehend infinity, but in that fragmentation or experience of fragmentation, perception, which is implying that it's not actually real, it's just a perception that it's, kind of taking on, so to speak, through its, existential journey to being individual, being a very unique individuation of that infinite being, right? A multiplicity of that infinite being, a unique expression of that being. And to be able to do that, there's a painful separation in that as well. There's a leaving home in some sense, a leaving from that love to some small degree until eventually split, multiplicity, become more dense, project farther until boom, Garden of Eden, bite, knowledge of good and evil. Okay, split, boom, just you leave the garden, so to speak, right? And you obtain the perception of separation, of aloneness, of danger, of even unworthiness, and that perception in and of itself is the primordial karma, we could say, the adi karma, the original sin, the pain body. And that pain body just so happens, I think in our next video, we're going to really go deep on this next topic, but we're going to talk about really how this wound that we all have, is actually your greatest gift to the world. And there's a very specific way that we could go there, but with this pain body, for me, there was this realization, wow, okay, so I have moments where it's like, I don't want to admit that. I don't want to accept that. Like, screw this pain. I got to get away from it. I got to run from it. I got to fight it. I got to, and that in itself perpetuates more of the pain. And it was in the beginning of acceptance of the things I told myself. I'm just a worthless, poor junkyard kid with drug addict parents that will never amount to anything. I'm just a loser. I'll never fulfill my dreams. I'll never be a great father, never be a good husband, all of those things, just like these. And getting to the core of it is this core story about your identity that you tell yourself. And you healing and overcoming that by going through it turns you into the most optimum version of yourself that the infinity, the divine, the eternal already, you could say, in its omniscience, already knew, already had pre-unfolded, right? So that core wound, that pain body, we always talk about it. Try to get away from it. We try to do the shadow work, the inner child healing. We do all that stuff. But until we get to the real core, and the key is learning to experience and accept it and allow it and be at peace with it, it turns into your superpower. So I'll pass it on to you from there, Liam.
Beautiful, JJ. Yeah, yeah. I want to pick up on a couple of things that you were talking about. The first one is that, this pain body, like what you're saying, or this consciousness is always about separation, right? And we can see that separation in different ways. We can see it as like, well, I'm not enough, or I'm alone. There are all these ways of where we think of the I, and we're completely fixated on the separate sense of I, right? And that's the nature of the pain body and of our consciousness from that limited perspective. So a couple of things to kind of realize here. One is that notice how when we're in that place of feeling that we're not enough or alone or whatever, that we're going to die or whatever, or this is terrible. When we're there, notice how little there is, if any, possible goodness, right? Of potential. There's really no potential there. And this is the darkness. There is no potential for light, for love. There's very little of it. That is the nature of this kind of consciousness. And that's painful, right? Because it's not in reality. That's why it's painful. It's painful to move us away from that limited understanding. Not by running away from it, but as you were saying, JJ, by going in and through. Because now what happens is we understand that this I is simply one aspect of consciousness. So our sense of identity or consciousness itself involves a sense of I, it must. But in order to have that sense of I, it also has a sense of not I, of other. There's no way that we can identify ourselves as I without the not I. So already we're in this kind of duality. And so when we're kind of just fixated on the I in that painful place, we're completely missing that we are also greater than that. And so as we go in and through that pain or that difficult emotion or that the end of the world as we see it in our lives, now as we go through that, we're now connected to the not I and the all that is the not I. And so that's the beautiful thing. And it also highlights another thing that you're pointing out, which is that our potential is always going to be through who we are right now in this lifetime, in this body. There's no out there. It's all here. Our potential unified consciousness, our non-dual awareness of self and other as the same. It's all going to come through and must come through this understanding of our personal being and potential.
Yeah, so good. And I'll wrap it up there with something that I think is so powerful with what you're saying, Liam, is it becomes more than just the intellectual understanding. It's one thing to take on all this knowledge and say, oh, I get it. I get how from the zero came a one somehow, and then the one created all these numbers, and it's all multiplicity, and it's all, we can start intellectualizing everything so much and like really have this deep understanding. It's until we allow ourselves to actually go through these experiences, through these emotions, through facing what we've told ourselves our whole life and why that's even there, what triggered that in our journey. Really getting deeply, deeply aware and present with these things that we're carrying with us, these identities that we're carrying with us, and moving through in a very specific way. Liam and I walk people through this all the time. Walking through those emotions, those identities, those beliefs, those thoughts that are on perpetuation, even chemically now, because you've been programmed to that for so long, right? And deprogramming that really requires us going through the fire. And on the other side of that fire is what we could call epiphany, revelation, deep realization of what we're saying on a very visceral, direct, perceptive level, and until you go through that, it's kind of just an idea. So this is a path of action, which we're going to continue to speak to deeply. It's a big part of what we're all about taking this work and letting it invigorate your life force and sharing it with the world, sharing your passion, your genius, your gift, you being a lighthouse to others, And so, Liam, is there anything else you want to speak to before we close this one out, my brother?
Yeah, just real quick, I love what you're saying, and I also want to add this very simple way to say, okay, there are kind of three levels of knowing, right? We can have this first, like, introductory knowing, which is conceptual.
Mhm.
And then we can move into understandings, which is a deeper aspect of that. And then the deepest is an embodied knowing, where this is something that is in your cells and you know it. And this is where faith and trust and real power lives.
Perfect. Yeah. And we walk you guys through this whole system. So book a call, guys. 5-day challenge. It's a awaken your clarity and vision process is what we're calling it. There's, multiple ways we can go about it depending on your own individual situation. And we're here to support you in your journey. So we got the link below. You can book that in. But otherwise, just so grateful for you all being here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one.
Excellent. Take care.
Peace.